Why do we feel guilty about wanting more money, if the Torah itself speaks of abundance as blessing? This question sounds simple, but it carries a silent crack that has prevented many people from growing financially. Even studying, even working hard, even praying in faith, there is an invisible tension between the desire for prosperity and the feeling that you are betraying some spiritual value, as if asking for sustenance was a sign of weakness, or worse, selfishness. But what if I told you that this guilt has no basis in true spirituality? What's more, that it was never part of the original Jewish view of money. The truth is that many people carry Abraham's faith in their hearts, but live as if they had taken a secret vow of scarcity. And that didn't come from the Torah. It came from distorted interpretations, from badly told stories, from doctrines that confused humility with limitation. The Torah does not condemn wealth. It directs it, and the wise have always known this, so deeply that they taught their children to manage businesses, to respect money as if it were a sacred tool. They knew that parnassa, dignified sustenance, was part of the spiritual mission of every human being, not a luxury, a responsibility. What modern finance books are beginning to call the prosperous mindset, Torah masters have been teaching for centuries, only with more depth, more purpose, and more truth. And maybe what's missing in your financial life today is not more effort, nor more strategy. Perhaps it is a realignment with what millennial wisdom has already made clear, that seeking prosperity with intention is not only allowed, it is sacred. And that's what we're going to delve into now, because understanding why the Torah allows, and even teaches, to seek money without guilt can be the first step toward unlocking something that is already yours by inheritance. When we access a truth that was hidden and feel that it makes sense not only in the mind, but in the chest, this cannot go unnoticed. Because recognizing that thriving is also a spiritual act completely changes the way you position yourself in the face of money, work, and even your faith. And if you have come this far with an open heart and an active mind, it is because you are part of a generation that is ready to rebuild this bridge between spirituality and wealth, with awareness, courage, and depth. That's why this channel exists. Here you won't hear cliches or empty promises. You'll find codes, ancient wisdom, and purpose-aligned strategies, everything you need to truly thrive. So walk with us. Check now if you're already subscribed to the channel and are part of this community that shows you how the ancient wisdom of the Jews will help you to have more wealth and abundance. Because growing alone is progress, but growing with meaning is legacy. For generations, we have been taught to associate money with greed, as if the simple act of wanting to prosper was already an indication of selfishness. This belief, subtle and silent, was planted between the lines of misinterpreted religious discourses, of badly told stories, of distorted interpretations that did not come from the Torah, but from the mixture of fear and ignorance. And the most dangerous? It has taken root in our language, in our families, in our decisions, even in our prayers. In many homes, people grew up hearing phrases such as, "money is dirty," "those who get rich are deviating from God," or the classic, "better to be poor and honest than rich and corrupt." With this, the search for prosperity began to carry a weight, as if by wanting to grow you were betraying spirituality. The consequence is devastating. Thousands of people who have talent, potential, vocation, and capacity. But they can't break cycles of scarcity because deep down, they feel that prospering too much would be wrong. And it's not just about theory. This manifests itself every day, in the fear of charging for one's work, in the difficulty of receiving praise or money with gratitude, in the insecurity when investing, in self-sabotage when it comes to growing. It's like trying to sail with the wind blowing in your favor, but with the anchor stuck in the background. Or like driving a modern car with the handbrake on. On the outside, you struggle, but inside something gets stuck. I've seen it up close. People who took courses, studied, sought financial knowledge, but when it was time to take a decisive step, they backed down. Sometimes they miss the chance and then say, "I don't think it was for me." But is it really? Or is there an inner voice, inherited from a family history, from a poorly explained doctrine that says, "This is too much for you. Stay in your place"? That voice is not your soul. It is a conditioning. and it's time to break with it. Because the Torah, the heart of Jewish wisdom, never said that money is sin. She says he's powerful, and that, for this very reason, needs to be managed responsibly. What tradition teaches is that true impurity is not in what you gain, but in what you do with it. It is the heart of man that sanctifies or corrupts money, and not the other way around. And that changes everything, because it shifts the focus from repression to responsibility. In other words, wanting to grow does not make you less spiritual. It invites you to mature spiritually. Within the Jewish tradition, there is a phrase that may seem provocative at first glance, but which carries a liberating wisdom. Without flour, there is no Torah. In other words, without sustenance, there is no structure to live spirituality fully. Because faith needs a basis. The study needs resources. Generosity needs raw material. How can you help another if you yourself are surviving? How can you invest in growth if all you live in is containment? Scarcity is not noble. It is dysfunctional. And perpetuating it in the name of humility is not virtue. It is confusion. The guilt for wanting more does not come from the Torah. It comes from systems that have learned to control people through fear and lack. And if you've ever heard, even if in silence, that being rich is dangerous, that money drives people away from God, or that asking for prosperity in your prayers is superficial, know that this is not Judaism, it's noise. The Torah, in fact, is full of blessings linked to the land, to the fruit of work, to the multiplication of resources, to the dignity of sustenance. Just look at the patriarchs. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all were prosperous. And they all used their resources to expand their mission. Now think with me, what if you're also here with a mission, only blocked by an idea that isn't even yours? What if the guilt that prevents you from prospering was inherited, not chosen? Breaking with it is not an act of rebellion, it is a return to essence, to balance, to clarity, because prosperity without purpose becomes an obsession, but purpose without prosperity becomes frustration. The Torah teaches you to align the two. So maybe today is the time for you to name that voice that whispers that wanting more is wrong, and silence this whisper with light, with truth, with wisdom. Money is just a tool. It is His Spirit that gives direction. When you understand this, what was once guilt becomes awareness, and consciousness opens the way to something much greater. In Torah tradition, wealth has never been treated as a moral deviation. On the contrary, it is constantly portrayed as an instrument of righteousness, of preparation and partnership with the divine. The problem is not in the money, but in what you do with it. And this is exactly what differentiates empty ambition from true mission. The Torah does not condemn those who prosper. It teaches you to prosper with purpose. And when you understand that, the look changes. The search for abundance ceases to be an individualistic desire and becomes a spiritual summons. You are not accumulating. You are preparing to serve. Just look at the patriarchs and sages throughout Jewish history. Abraham was rich in possessions, herds, and influence, but he was also the model of hospitality and justice. Isaac prospered even in times of drought, planting crops in difficult lands, because he believed that the blessing did not depend on the land, but on fidelity to the promise. Jacob built wealth with strategy and resilience, but always with the awareness that each blessing carried a greater purpose. None of them sought money out of vanity. They all understood that resources are an extension of the mission. The Torah, in Devarim, Deuteronomy 8:18 clearly says, "For it is the Lord your God who gives you strength to acquire riches, in order to confirm the covenant that He swore to your ancestors." This phrase alone destroys the idea that prosperity is the result of personal effort or luck alone. The strength to acquire comes from above, but it is given with one objective: to confirm the alliance. In other words, all wealth is an opportunity to renew the pact with spirituality, through ethics, justice, generosity, impact. That is why the sages talk about parnasa with kavana, sustenance with intention. It's not about working harder. It's about working with awareness. Money is not the end. It is the means to manifest a world more aligned with the divine will. And here comes a central concept: tikkun olam, or repairing the world. The idea that our every action should contribute to transforming the world into a more wholesome, more just place, more aligned with the original purpose of creation. But repairing the world requires structure, and structure requires resources. Love without foundation becomes weight. Generosity without sustenance becomes emptying. Wisdom without investment does not reach anyone. In other words, without prosperity, even spirituality weakens. In practice, when someone seeks wealth with this type of awareness, everything is transformed. An entrepreneur who sells ethically and treats his team with dignity is doing tikkun. A mother who organizes her home with honor and teaches her children about values-based finances is doing tikkun. A young man who chooses to invest in projects that bless other lives is doing tikkun. Prosperity isn't just in the bank account. It's in the intention with which each currency is moved. And don't think that this is symbolic speech. It's real. I've heard stories of people who grew up in environments where everything was scarce: money, affection, perspective. But by accessing this Torah view, that prospering is not a sin, it is a mission, something unlocks. Because the moment you understand that every resource that comes into your life is a covenant tool, you begin to treat it with reverence. And this reverence attracts more. So when someone asks, "How can I get more money without getting lost?" the answer is here. Don't look for yourself. Look for something bigger than yourself. Because those who seek money with purpose inevitably find direction. And when the direction is aligned with the sky, the path opens. Prosperity flows because it has a place to live, a prepared heart, an awakened mind, and hands willing to build something that doesn't die with you. There are things that we hear and feel that something inside changes place, right? When wealth is no longer a burden or a taboo and becomes part of our mission, the mind aligns with the heart. So now you only tell me honestly in the comments. What did this reflection awaken inside? You don't need to write much. Sometimes one word is enough. And if you want to commit to this new look, right there, "My prosperity has a purpose." This phrase can be your first step. With their feet firmly planted in reality and their eyes turned upwards, the Jewish people have learned, over the centuries, to deal with money in a way that unites spirituality and practice, consciousness and movement, ethics and prosperity. And it all starts with a powerful principle. Money is not dirty, as long as it is clean. The Torah does not prohibit wealth. On the contrary, it honors it when it is born of honest hands, a just heart and upright attitudes. What it vehemently fights for is easy gain, without merit, or worse, built at the expense of the fall of another. There is a concept within Jewish wisdom called kasher din, which translates to kosher money. That is, permissible, pure money, in line with Torah ethics. Money that is not only accepted by civil laws, but that also carries the spiritual permission to circulate in your life. And that changes everything, because the money that comes with blessing does not take its toll in guilt. It is light, it is continuous, it is multiplier. But the money that comes from the breach of ethics, even if fast, flows like sand between the fingers. This idea may seem abstract, but it has a direct impact on everyday life. When a professional decides not to hide defects in a product or service, he is generating kosher money. When an entrepreneur values his employees fairly, paying not only the legal minimum, but what reflects respect and dignity, he is creating wealth with righteousness. When someone refuses to manipulate, deceive, or exploit, even if they have the chance to take advantage, they are planting seeds of a kind of prosperity that the Torah not only allows, it blesses. The Talmud reports that in the heavenly judgment, one of the first questions a person will be asked will be, "Have you been honest in your dealings?" This shows that heaven does not separate spirituality and finances as the world usually does. On the contrary, the way you deal with money is a fundamental part of your spirituality, and you don't have to live on donations or move away from profit. The question is not how much you earn, but how you earn. What was built with truth remains. What was built with cunning collapses when the pressure comes. Nowadays, this translates in many ways. Think, for example, of how some business models are based on scarcity, emotional manipulation, techniques that aim only at short-term gain, without considering the real impact on people's lives. The Torah calls this type of profit that curses the field. It may seem like it's working at first, but something there was planted the wrong way. and sooner or later the crop becomes toxic. On the other hand, the Jewish tradition encourages trade, creativity, development, as long as it comes with awareness. This means that you can, and should, dream of stability, expansion, financial achievements. But all this must come from clean hands, from fair intentions, from transparent actions. What's more, this type of money doesn't have to be hidden. It can be celebrated. Because it does not corrupt, it elevates. He does not oppress, he liberates. It does not replace values, it sustains them. And here's the most transformative point. You're spiritually allowed to thrive. You don't have to apologize for wanting a better life. As long as the search comes with awareness, with responsibility, with ethical alignment, it is not only legitimate but necessary. The world needs more prosperous people with values, more people who earn well, but think about the collective. May it prosper, but remain light. May he conquer, without leaving his soul behind. And it is precisely in this turn of consciousness that the true code of Jewish prosperity lies. It is not just about how much you earn, but who you become when you win. Kosher money isn't just measured by your bank statement. It reveals itself behind the scenes of your routine, in the small decisions that no one sees, but that build the foundation of your financial freedom. Therefore, now it is time to delve deeper. How to know in practice if the money you move carries integrity, or if, without realizing it, you may be repeating harmful patterns, inherited or copied from the world around you. The first key is to observe how you behave in pressure zones. When money tightens, do you still hold on to your valuables? Do you promise what you can't deliver? Omit information to guarantee a sale? Accept a society that clearly compromises its principles? These are the silent tests that life sends to measure its structure. The Torah values truth as the basis of every transaction. And even if you don't realize it, every time you give in to dishonesty, no matter how small it may seem, you weaken the spiritual vessel that holds your parnasa. It's like piercing a vase and hoping that it will remain full. Another important point is to realize how you treat other people's money. When you manage a collective budget, whether it's for a family, a company, or even a fundraiser among friends, do you take care of it with the same zeal you would with your own pocket? Because the Torah teaches that he who is faithful in a little is worthy of much, and whoever is generous in what does not belong to him steals blessings that were not intended for him. It is also worth looking carefully at the way you deal with profit. Do you know exactly where your revenue comes from? Have you ever stopped to analyze which products, services, or practices generate the most return? And if all of them are really aligned with your values? Often, the greatest money comes from the very thing that most deviates from character. This is why the concept of kosher money requires constant self-examination. The question is not only how much am I earning, but what part of me am I selling to earn this? And here's a little talked about but extremely powerful Jewish practice. Financial cheshbon hanefesh, a kind of accountability of the soul focused on the field of finance. Once a week, sit quietly and ask yourself, was there anything I did this week that dishonored the money I received? Did I use what I earned to create more light or to erase the truth? This reflection is not about guilt. It is about stoning. Because the soul that analyzes itself with truth aligns itself with heaven. Now, understand, there is no perfect money. We live in an imperfect world, but there is right intention, conscious effort, and above all, constant repair. If you realized that something you do today is not aligned with this vision, you don't need to punish yourself. You can transform. You can readjust. Because the Torah was not given to angels. It was given to human beings with daily challenges, doubts, and choices. And what it teaches is that the path of abundance is possible as long as it is trodden with truth. So everything that is financial in your life also needs to be spiritual. From the way you charge for a service, to how you react to earning an unexpected bonus, from how you declare your winnings, to how you distribute what you have received. Everything communicates something to the universe. And when your life communicates wholeness, heaven returns it with generosity, not as a prize, but as a reflection. When talking about wealth from the perspective of Jewish spirituality, the question is not, how much do you have, But what do you have it for? The Torah does not teach that money is an end. It reveals that it is a means, a powerful tool capable of expanding what is already pulsating within you. And that's why, in Jewish thought, true prosperity never takes someone away from the sacred, it brings them closer. Because the more resources you have, the more impact you can make. The more families you can support, the more studies you can support, the more justice you can promote. Let's look at real stories. Many Jews who prospered were not the ones who abandoned their faith in the name of financial growth. On the contrary, they were the ones who deepened their spiritual commitments at the same pace as they expanded their material achievements. An example that illustrates this journey well is that of a merchant who, by expanding his neighborhood store into a network of regional franchises, also increased his dedication to daily Torah study. He didn't see it as a spiritual compensation, but as an internal engine that gave meaning to what he was building. Every time I opened a new unit, I made a significant contribution to a social cause or a Jewish education project. Result? Business flourished more. And he didn't understand this as a coincidence. It was reciprocity from heaven. Jewish wisdom teaches that wealth does not transform character. It only reveals and magnifies it. If there is gratitude, wealth makes that person a source of blessings. If there is arrogance, it will become an isolated wall. Therefore, the Torah does not condemn financial growth. It only requires that such growth be anchored in consciousness. A clean heart, ethical hands, and pure intentions are the true vessels that sustain abundance with stability. Without this, money becomes a storm that knocks down. And here's an often overlooked point. Thriving requires spiritual preparation. Have you ever noticed that some people, when they receive more, simply get lost? They start consuming without thinking, move away from the people they love, prioritize status over essence. This is because they have not been taught that money, like wisdom, needs emotional and spiritual structure to stay. The Torah prepares the individual not only to receive, but to sustain and multiply with purpose. And this is a central difference between the Jewish view and the common financial logic. In most finance courses, you learn how to manage what you have. The Torah, on the other hand, teaches to expand with intention. The question is not just, how do I invest better? But, what kind of world do I want to live in? And how can my money help create it? That is why, for Jewish sages, every blessing that comes to their hand comes loaded with a mission. And to ignore this mission is to waste the channel through which the sky reached you. Wealth, therefore, is a response to an inner readiness. And those who understand this begin to seek money not with anxiety, but with clarity, not as an escape from pain, but as a bridge to purpose. And spirituality not only fits into this process, but is the foundation that makes it secure. For every dollar you move, there is a choice. Use it to build or to consume, to serve or to taste, to elevate or to erase your truth. You decide. The Torah shows at various times that the greatest spiritual leaders of our tradition were also people who understood the value of sustenance. Abraham was blessed with great herds, land, and possessions, but not for his ego, but to create a legacy. Joseph in Egypt was an economic strategist and at the same time a man of deep faith. These examples are not in Scripture by accident. They remind us that there is no contradiction between financial success and aligned soul. Contradiction only exists when there is a lack of intention. So, if you feel that you are growing, but still carry the doubt if it can take you away from your essence, take a deep breath. What drives you away is not what you get. It's what you forget when you win. And with each step towards expansion, you can decide to remember. Remember your roots. Remember your purpose. Remember that your prosperity is not only about you, but about everyone who will be touched by what you are building. When you hear something that rescues your deepest truth, something inside you organizes itself. It's as if every right word triggers a dormant code, and when this truth finds space, it needs to be acknowledged. Therefore, leave your like on this video. It is more than a click. It is a confirmation that there is a possible path between purpose and prosperity. And the more people access this content, the more awareness we spread. Now we move on, because the next step is to transform this wisdom into real movement. with actions that raise money to the place it deserves to occupy, that of a tool of its mission. Imagine that every financial action you take is like a small seed sown in spiritual soil. It doesn't just matter what you plant, but with what intention you plant it. The Torah teaches that effort, work, the pursuit of sustenance are not only permissible, they are expected, but with a detail that changes everything: the intention. The name of this in Jewish tradition is Hishtadlut with Kavana, an effort with direction, with awareness, with high purpose. It's not just about working hard, it's working right, with an internal compass connected to what really matters. In the Jewish view, action is worthwhile, but what precedes it is worth even more, because a blind effort can generate fatigue, frustration, and disconnection. An effort with kavana is like a laser beam. It focuses, penetrates, transforms. This is where the three filters that the wise advise to apply before any financial decision come in. The first is, does this action harm anyone directly or indirectly? The Torah is unforgiving with injustice. No matter what profit you can generate, if someone will be harmed, the result is already contaminated. Ethics here is not an optional value. It is fundamental. Because in the end, all unjust wealth comes at a spiritual price, and sooner or later that price will come. The second filter is, does it bring me closer or take me away from my essence? This question is a powerful one, because sometimes money is on the table. The opportunity seems overwhelming, but what it demands from you in return is disconnected from your truth. It is no wonder that many lose their shine along the way. They thrive on the outside, but they wither on the inside. Because if the path of abundance disconnects you from who you are, it's not worth the cost. True Jewish prosperity is expansive. It enlarges you without emptying you. The third filter is even more subtle. Is this spiritually sustainable? That is, can you repeat this for months, years, without getting lost in the process? Here comes a rare wisdom. The Torah does not only teach how to conquer, it teaches how to sustain. Therefore, habits such as reviewing agreements, taking intentional breaks to reflect on the use of money, and even maintaining a spiritual routine in the midst of the financial rush are part of the emotional hygiene of those who want to grow consistently. Small practices make a huge difference in this alignment. One of these practices is to start the day with questions, not answers. For example, how can I be useful today with the resources I receive? Or what am I building besides billing? Another practice widely used by Torah scholars is the Heshbon HaNefesh, adapted for finance. A weekly moment where not only the numbers, but the motivations behind them are reviewed. This helps keep the heart at the center of decisions, and not just the pocketbook. And there is still an almost silent but extremely powerful key: the blessing before using the money. In some communities, it is common for a person to say a short prayer before major decisions, such as an investment, a significant purchase, or even a large payment, asking for wisdom and alignment. It may sound simple, but it's this kind of gesture that turns transactions into expressions of purpose. All this logic reveals a profound truth. Spirituality is not separate from the market, profit, or growth. On the contrary, true spirituality is precisely in how you conduct these processes. This is where your connection to the divine manifests itself most concretely. And the Torah doesn't want you to hide from money. She wants you to use it as a means to express her light, her service, her legacy. Imagine for a moment that your financial journey is not just a search for stability, but a spiritual path in which every decision reflects who you are becoming. The Torah, contrary to what many imagine, does not ask you to renounce prosperity. She invites you to lead her with awareness, wisdom, and dignity. There is no true spirituality where guilt takes the place of clarity. And today, after everything you've heard, you may already be able to realize that the desire to grow financially is not vanity, but vocation. As long as it is aligned with solid values, with purpose, and with the intention of impacting the world in a positive way, you are not alone in this journey. Each person who comes here carries stories, challenges, and also that internal spark that says, I was born for more. This is not an empty ambition. It is a legitimate call from your soul. And when you look at money not as an end, but as a reflection of what is being built internally, everything changes. Your bank account is no longer a war field and becomes a fertile field, a place where blessings materialize because you have come to treat them as such. This is where true prosperity is born. When you understand that wealth without purpose becomes weight, but with purpose it becomes expansion. And what the Torah does is precisely to give you the spiritual instruments so that this process is clean, honest, and sustained over time. Not as a game of luck, but as an ongoing commitment to your own evolution. Now I want to invite you to mark this moment with a simple but powerful statement. Right here in the comments, I free myself from guilt and prosper with purpose. Leave this phrase on record as a sign to yourself and to this community that something has been activated in you today. And if you want, also write which part of this video moved you the most. Because sharing what transforms you can help others who are on the same silent path of financial healing. And since you have come this far, recognizing the value of this wisdom that for centuries has guided the Jewish people with consistency and awareness, it shows that you are also part of this construction. Enjoy this video now. It helps this content reach more people who need to hear just that. And take advantage of this moment to subscribe to the channel. Here, each video is a rung on your ladder of financial growth. Here, we are not ashamed of wealth. We learn to deserve it. This channel exists for this, to form a generation that unites wisdom, spirituality, and conscious action. And it doesn't stop here. In the next video, I'll show you the daily habits Jews practice to keep money indoors, spiritually and physically. Practical, in-depth content unlike anything you've ever seen. So get your notebook, your mind, and your heart ready, because the next step will surprise you. Let's move on.